Hi, I'm Rick Rheins, Senior Rabbi, Temple Sinai in Denver, Colorado. This week's Torah portion is Vayigash, and it begins, Vayigash Elav Yehuda, and Judah approached him. The him, in this case, of course, is Joseph, because we're almost to the conclusion of the Joseph narrative, certainly at the climax of it, in that the brothers think that it might be enslaved because Benjamin, their youngest brother, was caught with this special cup, and Joseph was going to keep him as a slave. And Judah approached Joseph and confessed his heart and said, "Take me, let me be your slave, free my younger brother, let all the rest of the family go back. I will be a slave for you." Now, of course, they're speaking to Joseph, but they don't know it's Joseph. Joseph is in the guise of the viceroy of all of Egypt, second in command only to Pharaoh. Joseph has only interpreters who will speak then to the Hebrew speaking children of Israel's children of Jacob. And so we have interpreters, we have the Egyptian court, Joseph dressed like an Egyptian, presenting himself as the second in command of all of Egypt. So it is Judah who approaches him and confesses and pleads with Joseph to free his brother, take me instead. And the commentators all mostly focus on the fact that it was Judah, Yehuda, that it was Judah who approached, Judah who confessed, Judah who made that first step to reveal his guilt, reveal his responsibility, to take responsibility for all. But if you look at it from a different perspective, who was revealing himself? Who had kept himself hidden? Who ultimately had to be the person to yigash, to approach and confess? It ultimately was Joseph. When Joseph said, "Ani Yosef ha'od avichai," he said, no longer able to constrain himself, broke down in tears, saying, "I'm Joseph. I'm not this Egyptian. I'm Joseph. Is my father still alive?" Which brings us to the question, Joseph, who was second in command over all of Egypt, he had plenty of opportunity to send messengers back to his family in the land of Canaan. He could have said a long time ago, 22 years he was in Egypt. So, okay, you can say that for the first few years he was in Potiphar's house. And then, of course, he was in the dungeon for a little bit. But for goodly 17, 18 years, he could have had some messenger sent back to his family in Canaan and saying, "Dad, Jacob, Israel, I'm here. Let's have a reconciliation." But he didn't. He didn't. He felt estranged from his family. He chose to hide himself. He did not approach. He did not reveal himself. At first, not to his brothers at all. And it was only after a while that he did. So you might ask, what was going on here? That Joseph, who was estranged from his family, did not make that first step for reconciliation. Well, there's all kinds of reasons that you can think of. He had such a terrible and traumatic experience from his brothers. That makes sense. And indeed, when he named his first son, when his first son was born, he gave him the name Manasseh, saying, "Nashani." Now, with this one, I will begin to be able to forget the troubles of my father's house. Joseph, traumatized, estranged from his family, wanted to forget his family, wanted to forget his Israelite roots, wanted to forget all that was that promise, that covenant. He had adopted the Egyptian way. He took on Egyptian dress. He took on the Egyptian language. He took on an Egyptian name. And so he was, I'm not going to break into song, he walked like an Egyptian. It was up to him finally to make that approach. He finally had to hear from his brothers that an approach, a reconciliation was possible. And when he did, he broke down in those tears. And he said, I'm not this Egyptian. Ani Yosef, I'm Joseph. And I'm not an Egyptian who needs an interpreter in order to speak to you, because he had sent away all of the interpreters. He had sent away all the translators. He had sent away all of his court. And he says, Ani Yosef, I'm your brother. I'm your brother. Ha'od Avichai, is my father still alive? And he spoke to them in Hebrew. And the brothers were astounded that this man who looked like an Egyptian now revealed himself to be their brother, speaking to them not in Egyptian through an interpreter, but speaking to them in Hebrew and revealing himself, taking off his mask, revealing himself to be that Hebrew. And most importantly, he felt that connection again to that covenant, to saying, Ha'od Avichai, is my father still alive? That connection that I have through the covenant that my father had, and that his father Isaac had, and that his father Abraham had, it's mine too. In the Midrash, Vayikra, it says that there were four reasons actually, why the Israelites were able to maintain their identity in Egypt throughout all the years of slavery. And so one of them was that they did not change their names. 2, that they kept their Hebrew language. 3, that they did not commit loshen hara, or slanderous speech. And then the Midrash says also they were not promiscuous. They kept a moral value to themselves. So whether it's 3 or 4, the idea is that they maintained that connection. But think about what Joseph did. He did take on Egyptian language. He did take on an Egyptian name. And speaking Lashon Hara, speaking about his father's house, says, I name my own child, I'll forget my father's house, right? So bringing it to us. There are loved ones that we have, friends and family, who may feel estranged for all kinds of reasons. Maybe they didn't like the rabbi during their bar mitzvah. Maybe they never had a bat mitzvah. Maybe they had some kind of difficult connection with the Jewish community, or they were upset at God because of some terrible things that happened in their lives. All kinds of reasons why a person can feel estranged from their family, from their faith, and from their community. And the Torah is saying, even in the extreme cases like Joseph, where he not only was estranged, but he lived away for 17, 18, 22 years. And he took on a whole different identity. But there's something still inside. There's that connection inside. If you're a part of our covenant, part of our Jewish family, you will always have that inside. You may not feel it immediately, but the gestures that we have when we approach someone else with love, with a sense of contrition, of asking for forgiveness, of a desire to reconcile, of a desire to renew our relationship. You can light that spark, that light inside a person again, so that they see that they will always be a part of our family, so that no matter how far they've gone, they will say, Ha'od Avichai, my fathers, they still live? I still have a place with them? My mothers and fathers, my ancestors, I still have a connection with them? And we get to say, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Come home. Be with us. Connect with your Jewish feeling, your Jewish faith. Shabbat Shalom.